out of nowhere in March, I was like, okay, it's time to read. No jokes aside, like, let's go. How are you so blinded by your like religion or personal beliefs that you would do these horrible, horrible things? Hello friends, so I put on eyeliner, so you know what that means. Time for a new video. This video I'm going to be talking about all the books I read in the first quarter of this year, so from January to March. And am I reaching my goal, or getting close to reaching my goal, of reading 100 books of my physical TBR, of the books I actually physically own? Spoiler alert, I'm not. Let's talk about it. I do have a massive stack of books. Massive stack of books to talk about today. Really excited. If you've been watching the reading vlogs, then you have seen most of them, except for a few that I'm going to talk about right now. Like right now. The first books I actually picked up this year was the trilogy, the Daughter of Smoke and Bone trilogy. Is that what it's called? I have no idea. Loved it. I think this is what opened my heart to YA fantasy this year, really. If you love romance, you're definitely gonna love this. And fantasy, it's more of a... It feels high fantasy just because there are other worlds. But it does feel urban because, especially in the first book, it does start off in our mundane world. So in this world, we have our main character, whose name is... what's her name again? Karou. I can't believe I forgot her first name. This book is following Karou, who has bright blue hair and eyes drawn on her hands, like in this cover. In this world, there are kind of angels and demons. And if you read the series, you know why I put that into quotations, because I don't mean one side is good and one side is bad. The beautiful thing that Laini Taylor does is talk about what is good and bad, but there is this ongoing war between the angels and demons, and this girl's kind of stuck in the middle. She's helping the demons, who are known as chimera, so they're kind of like mixed breeds. They'll have like horse legs or tiger head or wings. And Karou, the main character, is kind of stuck in between these two. She was raised and loves the chimera, but then she falls in love with an angel who is like killing all of them, you know what I mean? And these two spark an unusual love, and it goes off from there. But I love the discussion of what's good, what's bad, who's evil, who started the war, how can we end the war, you know what I mean? I love it. Chef's kiss, and the romance is so good. I also did read in January So Many Beginnings by Bethany C. Maurer, which was a Little Women retelling. I have a whole live show about it. I'll link it down below if you're interested. I gave that book a 4-star though. Very good. I want more. There's a whole series now where they're doing kind of remix. Don't you love when the camera dies like mid-sentence? It's always fun. As I was saying, there is a whole series now of remaking these classic stories. I really enjoyed So Many Beginnings, so I definitely want to check out the different books in the series. The next thing I read was a cute little manga, Lovesick Ellie. It was adorable. I gave it like 4 stars for its cuteness if you want something cute. I think I got this through NetGalley, so you will realize I have read a lot of manga this year, and that is probably why my reading goal is being met for 100 books on Goodreads, but not the 100 books in my personal TBR, because I don't really own most of these mangas. I get my mangas online through the library. In February, I got the chance to read a really solid book. I really think this book is going to be a contender for one of the favorite books of this year. I really think so. I almost feel like rereading it just to like double check. Like, it was just really good, and I think about it a lot. And it is Black Girls Must Die Exhausted. I really enjoyed this book. This is about a woman in her 30s. She's black, she's beautiful, but she is a journalist and she's working her way up. She's up for a promotion, and she definitely feels like she has to fight for everything. She meets with her grandma a lot. She has this really fun girl friendships. She's trying to figure out her romantic relationship because she definitely wants to get married and have kids, but she realizes she's running out of eggs, so she either has to literally freeze them or literally start pumping out babies right now. And it puts a lot of her stuff into perspective about getting a promotion, about what's important to her. Oh, so good. Literally the first chapter made me cry like a baby, but I thoroughly enjoyed this and I highly recommend it. Y'all know I'm already reading the sequel to Black Girls Must Die Exhausted, Black Girls Must Be Magic. Y'all know I'm reading this. It's such a good book. Don't believe me? Check it out for yourself. Next book I managed to finish was Before the Ever After by Jacqueline Woodson. If you don't know, Jacqueline Woodson, an auto-buy author for me. I really enjoyed this book, but I will say I have enjoyed other books of hers more, and I'm starting to realize I just like her writing style, but I wish she wrote longer books almost, you know what I mean? She's so poetic and she writes stories about such meaningful things, but I do wish we could have dived deeper. But I feel like these are just kind of like windows into other people's lives. Like Harbor Me is one of my favorite books by Jacqueline Woodson. This is about a family who has a father who's a professional football player. He's like an NFL star, and he's just been concussed one too many times. And this book talks about how back in the day they were really hiding these medical concerns and issues and not supporting these players, and how it really affected this family, and we get it all from the perspective of the young boy. And what Jacqueline Woodson does so richly in this story is she just paints a really good like family dynamic, but also like the friendships this boy has with his other kids, his like posse, his main friend group. So powerful, so touching. It's just, her words have lots of weight, and it's so cool to see an author continue to tell stories that are, one, like underrated, never told, and then two, doing them in such a beautiful way, such a poetic way. It was definitely sad, but I do think this is more of a like 3.7, not my favorite. Not sure if I'd want to reread this unless I specifically do a Jacqueline Woodson readathon, like just for fun. But I do really enjoy her writing, and I think her stories are impactful, and she's an author I would definitely continue supporting no matter what. The next series I started reading was Blue Flag, a manga series which is a really cute kind of queer love triangle or love square depending on how many volumes you read. This series started off really fun, really exciting. Again, love queer romance, and it started off so fun and endearing, and I loved the characters straight off the bat. But then around volumes like 3, 4, 5, it really hits in 5, the conversations become really heavy about identity, gender roles with all the characters, and the dialogue is just so heavy that I feel like it almost loses the point, if that makes sense. There's one particular character who is super feminine and super flirty, and she like loves herself and she's really confident, and she's continuously like blamed for other people's issues, for like boys liking her and all the girls hating her. But this was like a 50-page conversation about this girl's experience, and then it kept coming up in later chapters, and we keep hashing it out, and it was just really drawn on. So I would say great discussions in there. Just be warned, the cute, airy bubbliness of the beginning doesn't really come back until like the 7th and 8th volume. There's like 3 or so volumes where it just gets really serious, and it does talk about like homophobia and things like that. So I think impactful, important, fun, just dives into more serious topics at some certain points. Be warned. Surprisingly enough, those were all the books that I read in January and in February. I didn't do a lot of reading, but then out of nowhere in March I was like, okay, it's time to read. No jokes aside, like, let's go. I'm impressed by this stack, honestly. I'm like, how did I do this? Let's start with the first book on the stack, which is Akata Witch by Nnedi Okorafor. I really am enjoying this series. This is the 2nd book in the Nnedi Scripts series. So it's a specific series that's like an urban fantasy where we have these 3 kids, and they're all leopard people. So they all have magical abilities and are like associated with this magical society, and it's specifically in Nigeria, though magic like leopard people are all over the planet. So we focus on these kids in Nigeria learning about the magical system, and the main girl we follow, she actually didn't know she was a leopard person until she met these other kids, so it's a high learning curve. So I read the 2nd book and really enjoyed it. I feel like the stakes in this one got even higher. The 1st book was all about magical stuff and this evil villain and things like that and trying to defeat him, whereas this one, there was evil entities chasing after them and stuff, but they kind of broke down the chosen trope, or the chosen one trope, a little bit more, because it seems like each kid is necessary, and on top of that there were other issues that came into play that weren't magical related, that were like human issues, you know what I mean? And I think the stakes were just so high with the family and the romance got a little funny, and it does still have a lot of the quirky vibes that the first one had. So I highly recommend this fun little urban fantasy. I believe the next book I read was The Shadow Shaper. This one's also classified as an urban fantasy, where in this world in New York where these kids are, I love in like the New York atmosphere in this book. It was very rich and vivid. So in this world we have shadow shapers. So these are people who can draw and illustrate and then put spirits into the paintings, so that way the spirits can live on and experience or continue to experience the joys of life, kind of is the vibe I got. But there's someone going out and killing all these shadow shapers, and our main character doesn't really know why, and she has to learn why and try and protect herself and others and hopefully save everybody and her family who are desperately at risk. I very much enjoyed this. I can't wait to read the next few books. I think I gave this like a 4-star. Oh, and I don't think I said, but Akata Warrior I gave a 5-star. Definitely a great read. Y'all, I'm really hoping to get to the second and third installments of the Shadow Shaper series. We'll see, hopefully. But I definitely really enjoyed the first one, and I think there was a little sprinkle of a secret at the end of the first one. There's like someone who's betraying the group, and we didn't find out in the first book, which is insane. I have guesses, and I want to find out if I'm right. Next thing I managed to finish was Skin of the Sea, which was surprisingly really good. It started off a little low energy for me just because I think there's 2 reasons. 1, slavery makes me sad. 2, the main character doesn't know herself. She literally has no past recollection, so I feel like she kind of felt like a little bit like an empty vessel, which makes sense to the plot. She is going to learn about herself, she's going to get a purpose, she's going to be active and proactive in her life, but in the first like 70 pages or so she's just figuring things out. She's kind of swimming by, you know what I mean? And I also love it because it is really rich in like Western African culture with the Mami waters and the Orishas, but it really picks up after the 70-page mark. So at this one I think I'm leaning towards a 3.75 rating. Almost a 4, almost. It got really serious and intense towards the end of the book, and I really liked like all the journey, magic revelations and things like that, but I will say it took a bit to get there. So I think the second book is going to be like chef's kiss, so good. I can't wait for the second book to come out. Okay, so these last 3 books, which are completely massive, oh wow, this is the Black Witch Chronicles. I have not read the 4th installment, The Demon Tide, yet. I'm so excited too. I literally cannot wait. But I did manage to read The Black Witch, the 1st installment, The Iron Flower, and The Shadow Wand. The Iron Flower had me crying so much. This is a new favorite series of mine. I don't know why. I don't just binge read these books on repeat all the time. They're so good. They do have a lot of trigger warnings. I'm very excited a lot of you guys have picked it up and started reading it. I really hope you're enjoying it, but definitely trigger warnings. I feel like in the last book it gets even more progressively worse throughout this series, just the trigger warnings. The first 2 installments have a school environment, kind of dark academia-esque, but basically The Black Witch Chronicles follows Ellerin Gardner, who is the descendant of this Black Witch who decimated a lot of creatures and cultures. Siren. So basically she killed a lot of people, and a lot of people hate her. And all the different kind of racial sex or like different types of creatures. Ellerin is a mage, but there's also people who are like Celts, there's elf, there's lupines, so like shape-shifting wolf people. There are these creatures called Icarals who have wings. There's all these different creatures, and each creature and kind of cultural group has their own religious beliefs. And all these religious beliefs believe in this prophecy that there will be another Black Witch, so everyone thinks it's going to be Ellerin, and she's going to like destroy the world. So when she decides that she wants to go off to university and study, she has a hard awakening. No one likes her. It's bad juju, and a lot of people think she's going to be powerful, but she has no access to power. She doesn't have any magic. Oh, it's such a good ride. If you love triangles, if you like university settings, if you like tough love. There's a lot of tough love in this story. It talks a lot about prejudice in such a unique way, where it's like you can totally understand why some people have their prejudice, but then you also understand like how are you so blinded by your like religion or personal beliefs that you would do these horrible things, killing babies, like just the crazy things that we justify because of like racial purity or religious background. Crazy. But yeah, I could not recommend enough. Definitely check out my reading vlogs if you want to see me reading all of these books. The vlogs will continue as I start my 30 books in 30 days challenge. I literally started today and I did finish a few books today, so I'm so excited. Can't wait to share that all with you. So that's it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you made it to the end, leave down this below so I know you are the real MVP. Definitely check out my Patreon down below if you want extra content from me. Otherwise, I hope you enjoyed this video and stay tuned to the many reading vlogs to come of me struggling to read 30 books in 30 days.